Hello and welcome or welcome back. I love you. And if you're new, please like and subscribe this video and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I upload the next story. This story is about Jessica Camilleri, a 25-year-old Australian woman who was found guilty of the murder and decapitation of her mother. She was sentenced to 21 years, 7 months in jail, and no possibility of parole for the first 16 years. Why is she allowed to get out? Well, she has some mental conditions, and we're going to get into it. Jessica Camilleri was born in Australia to Rita and Vince Camilleri in October of 1993. She was the younger of two daughters. And she experienced delays in her childhood, which were concerning to her parents. She was slow with talking, poor coordination, just enough stuff that her parents did get her diagnosed, and she had an IQ of 55 to 60, which is the bottom 1%. She was diagnosed over the years with ADHD, OCD, intermittent explosive disorder, autism spectrum disorder, a narcissistic personality disorder, and possibly schizophrenia. In school, she was bullied by others, and she would get angry and get into fights. She would bite and she would pull hair. That was one of her favorite ways of retaliating when she was upset, is pulling hair, especially going up behind somebody and grabbing their hair from behind and yanking them and pulling them down to the ground. She was expelled in her year 10, and this was after she had attacked another student, a male student, and it was just decided that she needed to go to the NOVA transition program, which is transitioning to work. But in that program, she also couldn't control her temper and violently attacked someone. And so after that, she just went to live at home. And by that time, it was just her and her mom, because her older sister had gotten married and had a child. Her parents' marriage did not survive. A lot of times, couples will have a lot of difficulty if they have a child that has any kind of disability, and that's a shame. Counseling is highly, highly recommended when you have any kind of hardship going on in your family life, and it just really would help out a lot. Anyway, get off my soapbox. Jessica really enjoyed horror movies, and she had 8 copies of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and 5 copies of Jeepers Creepers. She would spend a lot of time in her room. She also really liked numbers, and so she would call people on the phone randomly, random phone numbers. She would go on to have an altercation with her father, where she was sent to live with her grandma, and she attacked her auntie, grabbed her by the hair and pulled her down some stairs. So she was sent back to live with her parents. That was what led up to the parents splitting up, because the dad wanted her to go into assisted care, and the mom was like, no way, this kid is going to stay with me. I'm going to do whatever I can to bring her up. So she would threaten people. She would attack random people on the sidewalk, at the bus stop. If somebody looked at her wrong, she would attack them. And she had a record for this. But she was always released to her mom, who would be very apologetic and would try to discipline Jessica by restricting her from her phone or from her movies. But her mom would always give in within 2 weeks. That's how it went for a few years. Then in 2015, she began a campaign of verbal attacks on a random woman, someone she didn't know, but she liked the phone number. And she kept threatening this woman, saying that I'm going to show up at your door with a knife in my hand, and I'm going to saw off your head. And then in 2018, she started doing the same thing to a man, telling him that he was going to die of cancer, and that if he didn't, she was going to stab him until he died. And she called him more than 100 times. She also found his workplace, and because he worked at a company that displayed the employees' phone numbers, which included the number that she had been calling. And so then she started calling different people at the company, giving them similar threats, and contacting their family members on Facebook as well, and threatening them, and the same cutting off the head routine. Then she began having a crush on the manager of this company because she liked his picture, and she would harass him a lot, and he would notice that sometimes he wouldn't hear from her for a couple weeks, and then it turns out that that's because that's when her phone had been taken away from her. And one time Rita actually called him and apologized to him for Jessica's behavior. Rita was at her wit's end. She even tried getting an exorcist to try to exorcise the demons from her daughter. And Jessica was also on antipsychotic medication, antidepressants, mood stabilizers. But then 3 months prior to this fatal attack on her mother, Jessica refused to take any of her medications. She was receiving hypnotherapy, but that doesn't seem to have been helping much. On July 19th, 2019, Jessica was 25 years old, and that day, Rita took Jessica to the police station to talk to them about her phone activity, and the cops were telling Jessica that this behavior was not going to be allowed to go on, and that if she continued this, she was going to end up either in jail or involuntarily committed to a mental hospital. And Jessica was not happy about that at all, and was not happy about the fact that Rita was having enough and was getting to the point where she was seriously considering putting Jessica in a home. And then on July 20th, Rita's 4-year-old grandson came over to spend the night with his grandma. Jessica has always been jealous of her sister's son and did not like him getting the attention, so she always called him the little bastard. That day, the next door neighbor needed a ride to the clinic. She was having a medical emergency, and she observed that Jessica was constantly cussing out her mother, continued to cuss her out all the way, and verbally abusing and complaining about the little boy as well. And at the clinic, Jessica noticed a man looking at her, and she had a temper tantrum and said that her mom had embarrassed her. After the clinic, they went and had some fast food. They dropped off the neighbor, and they got home. And at home, Jessica told her mom that she had a tummy ache, so her mom called for a doctor to come to the house. And then Jessica decided that she was hungry. She wanted to call for food delivery, even though they had just eaten. Her mom was trying to talk her out of it, and Jessica was getting more and more angry. The doctor arrived and waited outside the open door for 10 minutes while hearing this commotion inside, while Jessica was on the phone trying to get the person on the other end of the line to say that he loved her, and her mother was trying to get Jessica to get off the phone. And anyway, the doctor determined that there was nothing physically wrong with Jessica, and the doctor left. Around 10 p.m., Rita talked to her older daughter on the phone for a little while. Then at 11:25, Jessica called emergency services from a neighbor's house. It was quite disturbing. It turns out that Jessica, from the start, tried to blame what had happened on her mother, saying that her mother had attacked her. But it appears, due to the physical evidence, that in a fit of anger, Jessica had most likely grabbed her mother by the hair from behind and dragged her to the kitchen, where Jessica used 7 different kitchen knives to stab her mother multiple times, 4 of the knives breaking off in her mother's body. Jessica removed her mother's head, took out her eyes and her tongue, engaged in a little bit of cannibalism, and then carried her mother's head over to a neighbor's house, trying to get them to call emergency services. And then she dropped the head on the sidewalk and encountered another neighbor, got them to call, and then Jessica got on the line and was being oddly calm, but at the same time saying that her mother attacked her. She thinks that she probably killed her mother, and her mother's head was on the concrete, and various other things like that. Police arrived at the scene, and Jessica was covered in blood, and Jessica was telling them the same story as well, and asking whether her mom's head could be put back on. Anyway, Jessica went to jail. While there, she didn't get along very well with other inmates, and then we go to the trial, and at the trial, the judge decided that she wasn't guilty or capable of being guilty of first-degree murder because of her mental defects. He sentenced her to the 21 years, 7 months. Jessica seemed to be totally unmoved by the victim impact statements, and she was unmoved about the details when she killed her mother this way. The 4-year-old wandered into the kitchen during the attack, tried to stop Jessica from harming his grandmother, and Jessica attacked him and cut his face. And then when law enforcement came there later, they found the little guy in the living room surrounded by vomit because he was just so upset about all this horrible stuff that had happened. And that poor kid's gonna need a lot of therapy. Anyway, Jessica does not seem to have learned her lesson from any of this. 7 weeks after she attacked her mother, she threw a cup of hot tea on another inmate over a disagreement about trading food. For that, she got a warning and a write-up. Then in October of 2019, she got in trouble for disobeying commands from the correctional officers, and she just continued to have property damage charges against her, and attacks on other inmates, and attacks on correctional officers, and all of them by grabbing them by the hair and doing the takedown thing. And I have heard some updates that I haven't been able to verify yet, that Jessica isn't attacking people so much anymore because finally an inmate retaliated, and Jessica didn't like that, so she now has not been attacking anyone recently. I do hope that that is the case, that she's not attacking anyone anymore. I hope that she gets lots of therapy and occupational therapy, etc. People work with her emotions, do all the stuff and tough work that's going to have to be done, because she is going to be let out eventually, and hopefully she has a better control of herself at that time. Otherwise, I fear for the safety of anyone that encounters this woman. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for watching.